Assalamu alaikum, ladies and gentlemen. Apologies for the slight delay. Uh, I was sitting in a webinar uh, with no attendees, and then I realized that there's something gone wrong with my connection. Anyway, thank you very much for joining in. We are waiting for our guest speaker for today to arrive, and as you might have noticed in the group, uh, it is Umar Zahiri, and the subject for today's discussion is taxation. So we're going to begin shortly. In the meanwhile, just wanted to ask a few questions. I still see people asking me this question: How do I join? Which link is it to join today's webinar? It gives me a feeling that there are some individuals who are joining this webinar for the first time, as they don't even know the link to join the webinar. I mean, it's I think midway. The program uh, was launched on 27th of March. Um, we are in May now. So in any case, what I'm going to do is I'm going to, for one more time, share the registration link in the WhatsApp group as we speak. Do that. Before we jump straight on to the subject, which is taxation, I would like to ask if anybody or if all of you, I would have expected all of you, got a chance to look at the case study. It was an interesting case study. I think डम्स के रेगुलर करिकुलम के अंदर भी ये केस स्टडी पड़ी हुई है. And like I said to you, the case study has been developed by an ACCA member, a fellow ACCA member, and another person who has taught me finance as well, and that is Mr. Jawad Sayed. So, very senior, very sound finance professional. So, and I'm talking about somebody who's taught me finance about 18 years ago. So, uh, Mr. Jawad Sayed is not a young fellow or a young lad. He's an old man, and but a very competent individual. So, the case study. Anybody wants to share? Okay, Ibrahim Tarek, can the link to share in the group? A lot of members are asking for it. Yes, it is in the WhatsApp group. If you go and check now, so it's there. Please go and check. Okay, Omar is saying unable to go through it yet due to increased burden in light of extended holidays. We'll go through it during the holidays. Omar, I don't think that's a good excuse. Um, is there a disturbance in my audio? If there is, I can switch. You need to give me a second, and there may be a bit of a of an interruption, and I'll be back. Okay, can you now confirm if you can hear me loud and clear? I've switched the network. Excellent. Thank you, Imran. Great. So, Omar, my condition of switching to only one day in a week was that you should be able to take out time and do the work as expected. If you're unable to do that, I can tell you we are not aiming.
Assalamu alaikum, sir. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. मैंने केस स्टडी गो थ्रू किया उसमें basically a man is working in a USA and come back because of family issues, and they had a family business in Pakistan, in Lahore, and in Sadqabad as well. the before because of the family arrangement, in the Satyabad, they have a farm, but it is rental out to the other person. But now he's looking for to take up and run it by himself. So the thing is, when he came back from 2000, I think it's 2002, and he started in 2016 with the 15 animals in Lahore. Now he wants to grow the business, grow the animal capacity is up to the 100, but he is fearing about that if he will go for the above capacity. But the thing is that relatively the time and the investment he wants to put in the business is as compared to the profitable is fair enough. So he can move on the to run the business by to increase the capacity of the animals. So this is the main thing, and he is focusing on the four main areas, which is obviously first is the purchase, and then comes to the vaccination, the medical condition of the animals, and then moving on to the weight gain. The major thing is the kg weight, as when he is purchasing the animal, the kg weight is the same when he sell to the market. So only the profitable is the thing is then how the how much the animal get the weight, sorry, get the weight. So if the weight is high, then it is that is the profit for him. So this is the four main area, third main area to look for the business, and then obviously for the sale. So for that, have the option to do it in the whole or purchase from the Okara, and then he's trying to set these things for Satkabad as well, if it is feasible for that. So this is how I just taken up from the case study. Yeah, thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, Junaid. Thank you. You've shared the basic information here. Of course, the main question in there is that uh, that Hassan has to make a decision, and that decision is whether to expand, invest more money in the business, expand the business, or continue to milk the business. And this is a typical situation in which individuals have to, um, uh, individuals who are running businesses, they have to face. And these are situations which um, finance professionals like yourselves should be able to advise the business owners on. Or if you're running your own business, these are situations which uh, should come about, and you should have answers, very calculated answers to these situations as finance business partners. And it is exactly this advice that makes finance professionals finance business partners. So the real question, like I said, is you have to calculate the future cash flows. You have to calculate the future financial statements and see if the amount on the amount that that Hassan is going to invest, if there's a good ROI on that investment, and other factors which can identify or indicate whether he should go for it or he should continue running the business like he's currently doing. I don't see anybody else with a hand raised other than Junaid. Um, let me see if somebody else also wants to shed some light on it. Please raise hand. Ijazul Haq. Ijaz, I'm going to unmute you. Please unmute yourself and continue. By the way, Mr. Umar has arrived. Ji, Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum. Can you hear me, sir?
Loud and clear.
Thank you so much. I'm Ijazul Haq. Actually, I did little calculation of that case study. Not complete financial future forecast financial statement, but hope I'm not disconnected. Screen has
No, no, you
changed.
are.
Okay.
No, no, you're loud and
Uh,
clear. That's all.
Thank you so much. Uh, I have noticed that this profitability is very low in this business. With
Mm.
50 large Cs earning only around 100. Right now, I don't have that calculation in front of me because I am traveling. The he's earning around 100 150,000 on 50 animals lot, and if you would double that to 100 animal, and that would be around 300,000. So it seems profitability is low. The complete analysis you rightly point out that would be based on that future financial statement that I will do. Inshallah, I couldn't find time, but I did a little calculation. That is my initial comment on that. That profitability is too low in this business. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you very much, Ijaz. Thank you. You've gone one step further than Junaid. I appreciate that. However, I'm sure we could have had a very focused conversation in this half an hour on findings from various members rather than me intervening. There could have been another individual who said, no, my observations are different. There's one particular factor which you might have not have considered in your calculations, and therefore uh, my assessment suggests that this is highly lucrative, and that could have resulted in the conversation going. I think that's what we had to discuss. Now I think Omar is back once again. He was facing some confusion. I'm going to make him a presenter. Uh, Omar, assalamu alaikum. Please unmute yourself. Oh, I can see you. You can unmute yourself and so that we can begin the session.
वालेकुम अस्सलाम, क्या हाल है आपका?
Gee, Alhamdulillah. The broadcast has already started. All our participants, we have 57 participants today. So they're all hooked up, listening to you, and therefore ready and very keen for you to kick off the session. Let
Fantastic.
me, before handing over to Omar, let me introduce him to you. Although I know Omar doesn't need any introduction, the name Omar Zahir Mir echoes when the discussion comes to ACCA Pakistan's member network panel, ACCA taxation forums, the Global Taxation Forum, ACCA's taxation subcommittee, or whenever you say ACCA and taxation, if you Google this, probably Umar's name will be top of the list. ACCA and taxation. Okay. So let
The
me
two loves of
formally
my life.
let me formally introduce to participants, those who are not familiar. Umar is a fellow ACCA member, a very senior member, and he has been, the chair of the members network panel for this for 2 terms in consecutive. So he was the ACCA Pakistan chair of the members network panel last term, which was 2018 to 20, and this term, which is 2020 to 2022. Other than that, Umar is a managing partner at um, MLCC, and which is his own firm, and Umar is the managing partner of the firm. In addition to his own professional responsibilities, Umar also represents Pakistan on the ACCA Pakistan Global Tax Forum, so which is an excellent uh, uh, forum for number one sharing the improvement in tax systems, or doing discussions around the Pakistan's taxation with his global counterparts. and also hear from others on what improvements are other governments making to their tax policies to make it more effective. So I think a very, very important forum where Umar represents Pakistan and therefore can share a lot of information with you from what he hears, from other senior members from around the world around taxation, which, by the way, is a very, very important subject. If someone has to talk taxation at a higher level, at the highest level, must be able to reflect on global taxation. Yes, importance of taxation, understanding taxation in Pakistan is a given, but when you're talking about C-level people, when you're talking about people at the top, they definitely have a perspective on the global taxation practices and be able to compare or at least give an indication on what global taxation opportunities or challenges might businesses face who are thinking about expansion globally. So I think a very, very important subject, and ACCA's own research says that out of the different domains related to the work of professional accountants, international taxation is going to be one of the key areas of work for members going into the future. Of course, bookkeeping is not going to be there, and there are doubts about audit also in the way it is currently happening. But there are other areas or other opportune domains which are going to be uh, taking center stage as we go into the future. So, without any further ado, Umar, I hope I have done justice to your introduction. Although it was a complete summary of what you normally say or what your profile actually reflects. But over to you to continue the session, Umar.
Thank you, Harun bhai. You've always been very kind. As they say, दिल से जो बात निकलती है असर रखती है. So that coming straight from your heart, I'm really humbled for that. So first things first about today's session, just few ground rules. I'll begin by introducing myself. Unfortunately, due to the nature and the time limit, despite my best wish, I would not able to take everyone's individual intro, but Harun Saab has been kind enough to brief me about the wider profiles. So after the introductions, we'll go straight into the session, the today's session, and I'll brief you about the content and what we aim to achieve in that. So first things first, Harun Saab has been very kind to introduce formally. Today's topic is the taxation masterclass focused on an overview of taxation planning in Pakistan. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wa ahlul uqdatim min lisani yafqahu qawli. O Allah, open my heart and ease my task for me and remove the impediments from my speech so that they may understand what I say. Okay, I'll just quickly introduce myself so at least you guys have the entire context from where I'm coming from and why I'm saying the things that I'd be saying. My name, as I've already been introduced, is Umar Zahir Mir. I'm a highly IT literate and experienced finance management and economics professional, holding top qualifications such as our very own the Global Leader ACCA's Fellowship. I'm a fellow chartered certified accountant. In addition, I also hold other top qualifications such as CFA, FCA, CPFA, anti-money laundering specialization, BSc honors, etc. There are a few other certifications as well, which are listed in the presentation, and I'm sure you'll be getting a copy of this, so you would be able to go through that. On the experience front, uh, I've almost 17 years plus fund of experience gained by working in top positions both abroad as well as in Pakistan. As Harun Saab shared with you, I'm currently serving as the managing partner taxation and corporate services at Millennium Law and Corporate Company, MLCC, which happens to be the pioneer ACCA and legal practicing firm in the region. I'm also honored to be sitting on the boards of several corporate entities and think tanks. Besides that, a big part of me is trying to give back, certainly to our profession and to the wider society as well. So, in that regard, I'm also an experienced trainer, having worked with esteemed institutions across the sectors, be it corporate, public, or academic. My portfolio includes having worked with um, institutes like National Bank of Pakistan, Bank Al Habib, MCB, Mizan, HBL, PPCBL, IBP, State Bank of Pakistan, Lahore Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Karachi Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Lahore Tax Bar Association, Karachi Tax Bar Association, Multan Tax Bar Association, Pakistan Tax Bar Association, ICMAP, ICAP, Bahria University, UET, conducting mandatory promotional trainings of government officers at MPDD. And last but not the least, in fact, the closest to my heart, our very own ACCA. For those of you who are interested in reading, you might have come across my writings. I do write occasionally now. It used to be very regular before, but my articles, my technical write-ups get published in various national and international publications, and mostly they are on the subject of taxation or economic development. Um, they have been published in the likes of, if we talk about Pakistan, mainstream newspapers such as Daily Nation, Daily Times, Pakistan Today, Express Tribune, and the only Pakistani research journal that goes globally on a regular basis, the Blue Chip Journal. In addition, I'm also serving as a director of Millet Thinkers Forum and the youngest member on the board of director of Hamdard Thinkers Forum. Beside that, as already been shared with you, I'm honored to be representing Pakistan on Global Taxation Forum. I'm also a life member and twice serving chairman of Finance and Economic Affairs Committee of Lahore Tax Bar Association. Before that, I've served as the chairman of their liaison committee for 4 times running. Um, I'm also the twice serving chairman and honored to be representing all our ACCA fraternity as the chairman of the member network panel. And I am also a member of the International Assembly of ACCA. This is my third time serving as the chair of the taxation subcommittee, and before I used to be a member of the same. I'm also chairing the Taxation Clinic at Lahore Chamber of Commerce and Industry. That's an initiative ran by ACCA in collaboration with the Chamber, where we are providing totally complimentary tax advisory services to the Chamber. And it basically contributes in placing ACCA's brand to a more prominent position and generating more opportunities for our members in the hub of the commercial activities. I'm also, I've been twice serving on the Finance, Economy and Taxation Committee of the Lahore Chamber of Commerce and Industry, and I'm an advisor to several parliamentarians and various forums on economic and taxation reforms. And something that I always say as a disclaimer, um, not all our suggestions, unfortunately, get acted upon, but we do our professional responsibility by bringing it to the light, bringing in these matters and concerns to the fore. So there are some things that we have suggested and have not been implemented. So don't think the challenges that you are seeing are because of us. I'm also honored to be serving on the editorial board of ACCA's Policy Insights for the MESA region and serving on ACCA's Professional Experts Forum. Moreover, I've been honored to have received numerous awards recognizing my contributions, particularly the Exceptional Public Value Award for 2 year running, as well as the National Advocacy Award by ACCA. I am now honored to be sitting on the judging panel of the National and Regional Advocacy Awards for ACCA, and I'm professionally associated with several globally reputed professional bodies beside our ACCA, such as the CFA Institute, UK Society of Investment Professionals, Prima, Permia, MPDD, MyMFB, etc. These on your screen are now a listing of the academic and professional affiliations in more detail. I would just quickly skip them. I'm sure You can go through that in your spare time. And as we have lesser time on our hands, I would like to focus more on the agenda in hand. And again, this slide just outlines some major strengths. These are some of the key existing clients and association. I would just like to share that with you for only one purpose, that I do remember when we launched the corporate arm of the Pioneer ACCA and legal practicing firm in Pakistan. One thing, one challenge, one perception that we had to battle was whether being an ACCA practicing firm would be good enough in the context of Pakistan. So this slide just gives a quick overview of some of the major clients. Many top industries who otherwise are reputable name are not included here because we were not able to secure their consent in time for this presentation. However, there are still some big names here, and that would show you that as an ACCA member, the value that you can bring is second to none, and you can be amongst the top professional should you choose to. So some of the existing clients and associations of our firm involve having worked with the World Bank on different projects, MPDD, corporates like Global IT Vision, Rafan, institutes like CFA institutes, Prima, Permia, top banks like National Bank of Pakistan, HPL, MCB, Bars Association, Tax Bars, CFA institutes, universities, corporates, etc., etc. So this basically indicates what ACCA provides in terms of the value. This is just a quick slide in continuation highlighting that there's a back-end history of 35 years and 100% excellence record in terms of the customer satisfaction. Um, these are some of the links which you can explore in your spare time. The first one is the internationally published report on MLCC, Millennium Law and Corporate Company, by ACCA UK, highlighting it as the pioneer ACCA and legal practicing firm in the region and its accomplishments. The second link is to the MLCC's own website, which I'm very proud because the video is of Harun Saab, who is with us, other members of ACCA staff, and our very own CEO, Helen Brand, awarding an excellence award to myself. Um, anyway, let's go back to the presentation and continue from where we left off. Uh, just briefly, MLCC has 4 partners, 2 of which are ACCA members, and the other 2 are legal partners. And we have specialized teams for all areas and all solutions under one roof, organized under these 4 partners. Now, the actual thing of the day, what are we gonna do? So guys, you are a part of a very unique program, 7 digits program, where you are already earning at least 200,000 or 250,000. And the aim of the project, the aim of this particular program is to ensure that your skills are topped up in a manner that you are ready to be launched and to aim to enter the earning market of 7 digits, which mean obviously a million or more. There are many different skills, many of which you are already being taught and trained on. However, you can't deny the importance of taxation. Obviously, the level of the participants of this program and the level that is expected means we would not be going into the basic nitty-gritty. However, we would be touching briefly upon some fundamental concepts to outline the basic understanding that is critical for tax planning. So we'll begin by talking about the importance of taxation, which I'm sure we all have our ideas about, and then we'll talk about the taxation laws. We'll then move on to discussing what exactly is tax planning, what is the concept, why we are even bothered about it during Ramadan, taking time out from our busy schedule, ACCA spending resources to complementarily provide this session to you, we taking time out, what is so important about it, and how can it add value to you as a professional, to businesses, etc. The advantages, and are there any disadvantages too? The difference between the tax planning, the tax avoidance, and the tax evasion. I've met many senior friends and executives, C-level officers who normally end up being confused between these different core areas. So it's critical that you have a good understanding of the same. We'll then move on to talking about some of the different and fundamental concepts like the major types of taxes, direct versus indirect. What is the taxation law framework in Pakistan? The couple of major ones, what is the Income Tax Ordinance 2001 and what is the Sales Tax Act? We'll also talk about the major regulatory bodies in terms of taxation in Pakistan at federal and provincial level. There's a history of sales tax in Pakistan, but I've just skipped that. It's not relevant to us, and also due to the time constraint. We will, however, have a quick overview of the Sales Tax Act, just like we had for the Income Tax Ordinance. After discussing the sales tax, we'll also briefly touch upon the fundamental concept which everyone should be aware of and forms the basis of some of the high level tax planning concepts, such as what is a filer, how the appeals are filed, what's the focus of income tax versus sales tax focused appeal, and we'll have interactive question answer session. That's something that I place high value on. So what I'll be doing is that in between I'll be giving pauses and giving you time to ask any questions. However, I'd request you two things. We have a limited time and scope. This session is not designed to give you information of the basic tax laws. If you are interested in that, we have video recordings of these available on ACCA's YouTube channel. They are also available on my own YouTube channel. If you just enter my name spellings, Umar Zahir Mir on Google or YouTube, you will find that. Go on that. They are detailed. They cover section by section legislation. They are a bit outdated, 2 3 years old, but you would have a very good understanding still going through them. Uh, what today's session is supposed to do is actually top up your skill as a high level executive to the level that if somebody talks to you about tax planning, talks to you about some more technical stuff, you would not sound like a novice. Speaking to you, they would know that you know what you are talking about. You have at least the basic fundamental concept of tax planning, placing you right there. Remember, no matter what kind of role you are trying to play, in this day and age, it's the value proposition that matters. So if I'm hiring you as a CFO and there are these two fantastic candidates and you are one of them, and all else equal, and one of you two have a good understanding of the taxation planning, who would I go for? Obviously the one who is bringing more to the table. And same can go in any other area. It doesn't matter which area you are working in right now. This session will pay to you, this will add value to you, and so will the taxation. So let's start. Importance of taxation. Before that, just a professional acknowledgement that several legislation and other reports of FPR and our own firm MLCC on the subject have been utilized in the development of this presentation. Before I go further, let me just quickly ask you one thing. The purpose of this session is to communicate. When I'm conducting international or regional session, by in limitation I have to go with English because they can't understand Urdu. But now we are conducting a session focused on Pakistan, on Seven Digits Program, on local taxation. So let me know, what are you more comfortable with? Should I conduct the entire session in English or Urdu or a mixture? I'll just give you a minute. If you can just type in the chat box and we can see your responses and just go accordingly, because my main purpose is that you should grasp what I'm trying to communicate. You should have a better understanding. It's not a English language class. So I think I can't see their chat right now
Yeah, I
unless
can.
you can.
Yeah, I
Okay,
can. I can tell you most of the members are saying the English will be fine.
perfect. So let's continue with that. Thank you, Harun bhai. Okay,
There's one
due to the
individual though who's just said that Urdu speaking, please, Mohammed Gayas. But I suggest we keep it English because the terminology in any
okay,
case is going to be English.
sure, okay. Riyasa, what you can do is later on, you can contact me or go through our recordings on YouTube, and they would be, inshallah, helpful for you. Okay, due to the limited time and extensive nature of this topic, we have strived to cover the maximum possible critical content within the available time. However, the content coverage had to be prioritized and managed order to suit the requirements and constraints for our session today. So let's start with the importance of taxation. Why is taxation even important? I think we all have the fundamental concept that modern economies and societies are based on it, and taxation is required for any modern government to function. So all the governmental expenses in providing the public services, the defense, the foreign services, education, health, etc., and all other public delivery areas are supposed to happen because of the taxation revenue. Obviously, we know when there are gaps, debt and borrowing comes and play a role. So does aids and grants, etc. But still, the major reliance, the critical reliance is almost always on the taxation revenue, unless you are based in Gulf and you have oil. And even that is changing now, my friends, as I'm sure many of you would be aware. And this taxation concept is not really new. If we look at the human society, their development, even if we look at the religion, some concept of taxation in one form or the other has been there. Because taxation is not only serving for the governments to function, it can also be used as an effective policy tool to ensure that funds, money, and wealth are transferred from higher segments to lesser segments of the society. A prime example of that would be zakat. This is the holy month of Ramadan, and I'm sure we are all aware of the obligation of zakat on nisab, which is 2.5%. So if you tie that with the concept of modern taxation, you can see that there are a lot of similarities. The implications for professional careers are many, just like my dear friend Harun was sharing with you a while ago. Taxation is an area which will always be there, no matter the technology, no matter the landscape. As long as human society is there, as long as interactions are there, as long as businesses are happening, the taxation would be there. Now, the scope, the value addition can change, and it has changed over time. The role from a bean counter, just filling forms, etc., towards more value addition, planning, wealth management, it has already seen transformation and will continue to see so. However, there is a permanent role for taxation in the accounts and finance field, and I believe it will continue to be so despite all the disruptive tech, be it blockchain, AI, automation, data analytics. If anything, they would put the onus more on the value addition. ACCA's footprint and taxation subcommittee, just very quickly, as this is very relevant to these areas, the MNP member network panel has subcommittees, currently 5 different, focused on different areas. Taxation and local laws subcommittee is one of them, which I'm also honored to be chairing. ACCA's footprint has been fantastic over the last 6-7 years. I remember a lot of the journey, and it's a very personal experience for me, having worked extensively with ACCA officials, particularly Harun himself. And we started the journey from a place where it was very difficult to gain recognition for ACCAs in the taxation field to this date, where now we are not placed as equal but even seen as leaders by many of the tax bars, having MOUs with Lahore, Karachi, Pakistan, Multan tax bars, recognition by the same, our members becoming the members of these bars on the basis of our qualification, etc. I would say we have come leaps and bounds, and a very important role was played by our CPTs, by our partnership arrangement, by our sessions, events, and collaborations with various regulators as well as these taxation bars. ACCA also present its budget proposals on annual basis and deal and interact with the regulators. And I'm very proud to share with you that our budget proposals from the year before last one were actually placed on ACCA's website as a benchmark to all the ACCAs globally. And that's something that we as ACCA members, as part of the family, and as ACCA members in Pakistan, take extreme pride in. So let's move forward. Taxation laws are set of laws to drive the revenue for the government to function and service the citizens. Now, I know the argument some of you will bring on the service delivery, but let's keep that for some other day. We are focused more on the technical aspect today. Pakistan, unfortunately, has a very complex taxation system with a focus on indirect taxes, and we have 70 different types of taxes in Pakistan on the different various levels, the federal, provincial, local, etc. Now, this has led to several sets of tax laws dealing with specific taxation areas and hence creating a lot of complexity and the requirement to engage taxation experts. However, this doesn't mean that you can't still have a level of knowledge where, as a senior executive, you are still in a position to at least deal in a knowing manner with your taxation experts. So what exactly is taxation planning? The first definition that you'll see is my own copyright. It's a definition that I've created to try to cover all the different aspects because I felt that most of the definitions lacked one or 2 points. So tax planning is basically a legitimate activity. First thing, it's legal, allowed by the law, involving analysis of the financial situation and financial records. But from where? From a taxation perspective, identifying the challenges and opportunities in terms of the taxation incidents and application of expert level taxation knowledge while keeping in view the future plans that should also tie in with this to help minimize the taxation charge within the ambit of the law. So the aim of any tax planning activity fundamentally is to achieve tax efficacy or tax efficiency. In simple terms, that means it allows you to pay the minimum possible tax by making maximum use of different available benefits, incentives like tax exemptions, deductions, rebates, credits, allowances, exclusions, etc., that are allowable but also feasible under the law. So one thing that many people do and don't understand, they go out for everything that is available to them. Sometimes that's not the best course of action for effective tax planning. You also have to loop in your objectives, your current situation, your future plan, and then in that context see whether it is feasible and actually in your benefit to avail a particular kind of incentive or not. This is a formal definition of tax planning. Let's quickly go through this one too. That it basically defines similar aspects as I've already shared with you, but for the sake of completeness, I'll go through this too. Tax planning may be defined as an arrangement of one's financial affairs in such a way that without violating any way the legal provision of an act, or in our case, ordinances or circulars, etc., full advantage is taken of all available exemptions, deductions, rebates permitted under the law so that the burden of taxation on an assessee as far as possible is the least. Okay, so far so good. So we spoke about what exactly is taxation, what is the need for it in modern economies, the precedent that's been coming from the human history, what exactly is tax planning. Why do we do it? Well, one straight answer is to minimize the taxation charge legally, obviously, but that's not all. There are other material benefits which you as senior professionals should be aware of. So in addition to minimizing the taxation charge, the biggest lucrative financial incentive, there is also the advantage of minimizing possible litigation. So if you are doing an effective tax planning, the chances of you getting bogged down in tax related litigation actually become much, much less. However, there are still possibility of litigation, as we'll be seeing in the disadvantages. Economic stability and growth. So I would like to discuss this point with you actually. Before I elaborate that, and you can still take the help from the screen, seeing the hints there. How does tax planning help the economic stability and growth? Aren't we actually trying to minimize the tax burden? So, wouldn't common sense suggest that the lower the tax revenues, the lower the available funds, the lower the growth? So, how can we say it will, and it should lead to economic stability and growth? Harun sir, can we allow the participants to be unmuted so they can actually speak? Any of them who wants to contribute? Hello. Okay. Let me try to get hold of Harun Sahab. Just stay put, guys. I actually want you guys to be able to speak so that this is more like a two-way communication. Ji, walaikum assalam. Can you allow the participants to be able to speak? I asked a question, so anybody who wants to speak can actually. I can. Okay, great. Thank you. But I'm not able to see the attendees. फिर मैं कैसे करूँगा उन्हें? जी जी. Okay. Okay. Thank you. Okay, I've got a response by Ibrahim Tariq that tax planning and reduction in liability thereof means more businesses registering and effectively not getting involved in tax evasion. Very intelligent, Ibrahim. I like your thoughts.
Well, you're probably muted. We can't hear you. We can see you speaking, but we can't hear you. No.
Process, and it's a valid point. There are also other points. Anybody else? If you guys else, just like a chat box, please declaration of mute you, and then use that you want to speak. Hear me now, guys. Can you hear me now, guys? That voice is absolutely fine at your end. Okay, is this happening? Can you hear me now? Guys, able to hear me now? Let me just
Yes. Yes, Umar, we're back.
come back up. Hear me, Harun bhai? Okay, so today is all great, fantastic. Okay, guys, let's continue. So, basically, the responses we received is that tax planning will lead to the declaration, and that should lead to economic stability and growth. Well done, guys. That's exactly the kind of thought process I was looking for. So hats off to Ibrahim and everyone else who responded on these lines. So basically, when you are doing tax planning, that leads to incentive to actually pay lower taxes and to declare more. So there will be more white money available in the economy to help stimulate the growth and lead to economic stability in the long term. Then we also have another area which is very critical and a direct benefit of taxation planning, that is the leverage productivity. What do we mean by leverage productivity? It means making productive investments, channeling funds from taxable sources to different exempt or low, ideally income generating areas within your overall financial goals that can actually result in increased productivity in terms of investment, which in terms will translate in more economic benefit for the country as a whole, and needless to say, the individual benefit that would be there. Okay, guys. Haseeb Azam Memon Saab said tax planning brings transparency in the system, income supported with expense or costs incurred. And yes, great, great. Yeah, that's exactly what we were looking for. Okay, guys. So these are the advantages. Can there be any disadvantages to the tax planning? Unfortunately, yes, although they are far more outweighed by the benefits that are at hand. But for the sake of completeness, let's discuss them. First things first, the first major disadvantage is the increased complexity. Obviously, as compared to a form filling exercise, taxation planning is much more complex. Obviously, when you are involved in planning and at that level, it's more costly as compared to a form filling exercise. Interestingly, there are still possibilities of litigation, especially if your tax planner is going on the gray areas. So these are the core disadvantages of the tax planning, which should bring us to the next major area, that is the difference between taxation planning, tax avoidance, and tax evasion. And that is a very important area because, mind you, most of the senior professionals get confused in this and unfortunately at times end up overstepping what is allowed. So before I go and dwell into this particular section, so far so good. Any questions that you may have, please ask right now. I'll give you about 30 seconds to type in your question. If there are no questions, then that would mean that so far so good. Let's move forward. But if you have any question about what we have covered so far, please type them and I'll unmute you to allow you to ask that yourself and then respond that. Okay, so there is no question. And we have a question by Haseeb Azam Memon Sahab. Here in Pakistan, tax laws is mostly complex than UK. Why is that so? Okay, Hasib Saab, that's a good question, but that would bring us to a very, very long debate. Unfortunately, we are short of time in that, but I'll try to cover that briefly. Any other question? If not, I'll just find Hasib Sahab and unmute him. So here is Hasib. Hasib, you have muted yourself. You need to unmute yourself.
Yes, Umar Saab. I was just
Assalamu alaikum. How are you?
calling. I'm fine.
काफी
How
दिल
are
जला
you?
हुआ है आपका. आपके सवाल से पता लग रहा है.
वो
अच्छा जी.
प्रोफेशनली भुगत चुके हैं इस
जी
वजह
जी,
से
go ahead.
मैं इस वजह से क्वेश्चन पूछ रहा था कि पाकिस्तान के जो टैक्स लॉ है वो या तो गवर्नमेंट डिलिबरेटली एक तरह से ये पॉलिटिक्स ही आ जाती है. ये डिफरेंट टैक्स लॉज है. हर प्रोविंस का अपना 180 डिग्री अपोजिट टैक्स लॉ. अगर प्लानिंग करने में जाते हैं ना तो ओवर स्टैपिंग हो जाती है. अवॉइडेंस
Hmm.
और टैक्स इवेजन.
Gets
इसका
very
एसेंस में
complicated.
मेरे को
It's a very, very good question, Hasib Sab. I'm gonna put you on mute now and answer your question. Thank you for bringing the attention to this. A very good question by Hasib Sab. Basically, he has pointed to the fact that unlike many developed countries, for example, he cited the example of UK. Pakistan's tax laws are very complex, and we know that post 18 amendment, the sales tax on services has been handed over to the provinces, practically giving rise to more regulation, more different boundaries, more barriers to trade, and increased complexity for tax planning. There are many different factors for this. There are some actual reasons, some real problems that results in this complexity. For example, a culture of tax evasion, unfortunately, on a large scale, and a lack of documentation of economy. However, there are many other areas which are actually um, adjustable and handable, solvable, let me say, if one desires so. So there is a political element. Uh, we know that I have to be careful because ACCA tries not to delve into political discussions. So just keeping this very professionally, we know that many political parties have bases in provinces, not throughout the country. So it suits their interest and the political goals to have this kind of legislation. However, you have rightly pointed out the world is moving forward to making borders less of a constraint in terms of trade, not in terms of sovereignty. So if we talk about European Union, it's practically as if it's a one country that you are sending, or one area, not even country, because within our country we now have five different territories, six in fact, seven if you add GB. So in EU, if you are doing business from one country, one state to the other, it doesn't matter. You don't have to pay VAT at every point of time. You just do it like one single territorial area. Unfortunately, what has happened here, and Hasib has rightly pointed that out, is that if you are a national business, then you are based in Lahore, PRA will be dealing with you. Your customers are based in Sindh, Karachi, maybe. SRB will be dealing with you. You are trying to have a plant in Azad Kashmir. Their authority will be dealing with you, and you want to supply goods and create a market in GB. That would be dealing with you, and so on and so on. And at all of these different points, these different areas, you'll be having additional tax incidences, and as if that was not enough, there are serious lack of harmonization. But the good thing is ACCA is and has been championing this for years, and things have started moving in the right direction. FBR and PRA has signed an agreement, and we hope this will be replicated amongst other bodies too. So I hope that answers the question. If there's any other question, please ask now. If not, I'll be moving forward. Hasib Saab, I hope that answered your question. Okay, Hasib is saying yes. Great, fantastic. Muhammad Waqas, why is it hard to convince an income tax officer in Pakistan on merit basis? I hope you got what I'm trying to say. I did, Muhammad Waqas sahab, but I think it's better if you actually elaborate your question for our attendees. And then after this question, I'll move back to our main session and move ahead. So let me unmute you, Muhammad Waqas sahab. Just make sure that you are unmuted at your end so that I'm able to unmute you then. Waqas, you are still muted from your own side, self-muted. You need to unmute.
Assalamu alaikum. Can you hear me now?
Wa alaikum assalam, Waqas sahab. Yes, perfectly fine.
Yes. My question was, as you already read, why is it difficult to convince an income tax officer in Pakistan? Like I have attended multiple hearings, but
Mhm.
whatever the documentary evidence you give them, it is really hard to convince them. At the end of the day, the only sentence they say, "ठीक है जी, I agree with all the documentary evidence and all, but we cannot issue an order in your favor right now."
Okay. There are two different major reasons. There are actually many reasons, Waqas, but we can actually focus on two major ones. One is the nature of the taxation laws. Unfortunately, many of the legislations give a lot of subjective powers to the officer. So, as you will appreciate, the more objective a thing is, the lesser the room to maneuver. The second is the kind of appraisal system we have in the revenue authorities. It's mostly focused on a singular criteria, that is revenue collection. End of story. It doesn't matter how many orders are cancelled in the appellate authorities. It doesn't matter what is the impact on the industry. It doesn't matter if the number of the taxpayers has dropped. It doesn't matter if the industry is adversely impacted. What matters is what is the collection that the officer has done. His promotion, his bonuses, his transfer posting, his appraisal, everything is totally dependent on that. Put anyone in a system and you'll see what you are seeing. So what we need to do is actually reform the system and you'll see the difference within officers' behavior as a result. I hope that answers the question.
Yes, perfectly fine. Thank you so
You're
much.
welcome. Okay, thank you to our participants for asking their questions and feedback. Now let's move back. We are now upon a very, very important area, and I want you all to pay a lot of attention here. The difference between tax planning, tax avoidance, and tax evasion. So what exactly is the difference? Tax avoidance is legal, while tax evasion is not. Tax avoidance focuses on availing legal loopholes, whereas the tax evasion, by contrast, unfortunately employ illegitimate means. Tax avoidance is done before the tax liability, and tax evasion happens after the tax liability has actually accrued. Tax avoidance can only result in penalty or imprisonment if availing the loopholes was not within the ambit of the rules. On the other hand, the tax evasion will certainly lead to penalty or imprisonment if found because it's inherently illegal. This brings us to a comparison of tax evasion, tax avoidance, and tax planning. While many people take tax avoidance largely to cover tax planning, there are some subtle differences. You can say that tax avoidance falls within tax planning, but it's not necessary that tax planning will always fall within tax avoidance. So let's compare. If we look at five different areas, the purpose, legality, nature, exercise, and impact, and look across these three different activities of tax evasion, tax avoidance, and tax planning, you can see on your screen that in tax evasion, the purpose is to not pay tax, which is illegal. On the other hand, the tax avoidance is focusing on minimizing tax, which inherently is legal. And the tax planning is the next step. It ensures tax efficiency. It's not just minimizing tax, it's ensuring an efficiency, looking at your future goals, your current position, your past track record, everything available, overall financial goals. And obviously, it's legal. In terms of the nature, the tax avoidance employs illegal means and is committed after the tax liability is already established. The tax avoidance, on the other hand, avail loopholes and try to comply with the legal provision. Tax planning only uses the legal ways to reduce the tax liability. And tax avoidance and tax planning both happen before the tax liability has legally accrued. Because by virtue of using this legislation, you ensure that liability did not take place. I'll try to elaborate that more as we go further. In terms of impact, tax evasion will, if caught, lead to definitely penalty or imprisonment, and tax avoidance may lead to penalty or imprisonment if the loophole availed were not within the legal ambit. Tax planning, on the other hand, is absolutely legal. So, your question should be okay. So far, so good, but what exactly is tax planning? Okay, I understand the definition. I know what I'm looking for, but in terms of businesses, just give me an example that how we are ensuring tax efficiency for long-term benefits. So let's take an example of a tax planning for a business segment, for a corporate entity. The first thing is the choice of the business entity, whether you decide to incorporate or go as an partnership structure or sole proprietor would actually change the incidence of the tax as well as the tax rate. So even this basic choice will become part of the tax planning. Then the timing of the income, whether it's falling in a particular quarter or a particular tax year. Just changing the date of the transaction from 30th June to 30 to 1st of July can actually result in lower tax rates. So the timing of the transaction will become important. The size of the business, whether you want to have it in one business structure which is too big and incurring higher tax rate, or you actually want to divide that in JVs or different project and create new structure. You want that to be a group structure and subsidiaries, or you want them to be separate entities. That would have an impact on the tax rates and the tax incidence. The expenditure and purchase planning, their timing would again result on your taxation liability and the tax rates. The owner's residency status would have an impact on the nature of the taxation as well as the level of taxation. And last but not the least, the capital structure, how much is the borrowing, how much is the equity, whether the public funds are involved or not, will all lead to the focus on the areas that we are focusing on, the difference in tax rates and the difference in the tax incidence. I hope that this actually made the concept quite clear to you. So if you have any questions, please start typing them. I'll be coming back for any questions in a bit. Meanwhile, I'll continue. So now that we have discussed about different concepts, what exactly is tax planning, tax avoidance, and what exactly is tax evasion, how can tax planning help you, what are the major benefits, what are the disadvantages, the example that we just briefly discussed in terms of the concept in corporate arena. Now we need to have a bit of understanding of some core fundamentals of the taxation to ensure that when we are talking to anyone or when we are listening to a tax expert, it actually makes sense to us. I know many of you would already be familiar with at least some of these concepts, so bear with us. It will tie nicely within the whole discussion that we are carrying out, and for those who are not, it's your lucky day. So let's continue. Types of taxes. There are two major types of taxes, direct and indirect. Direct taxes basically focus on income and they are directly levied on income. For example, income tax that you pay on your profits, on your income, is a direct taxation. Although we are really creative, we have even created indirect taxation within the direct taxation. How? Can anyone tell me how? Come on, guys. We are more than 50 people. I expect at least a couple of answers, if not more. Very simple question. I have said that in Pakistan, we have created indirect taxes within direct taxes. Let's make this even simpler for you. Within income tax, we have mechanisms which make that tax indirect tax. Can you give me an example? How? Let me help you even further by going through the definition of indirect taxes. As opposed to direct taxes, which are levied on income, indirect taxes are not levied on income, but instead of being levied on income directly, they are on transactions. Examples are sales tax, federal excise duty, etc. So anyone? Okay, I'm getting some answers. Khalid Jumra, Waqas, Subhan Siddiqui, all of you are right. Congratulations, clapping for you. So all of them replied withholding taxes, and so did Kanza. Yes. Yeah, but there is an even more relevant example than withholding taxes. You guys will be familiar with the concept of turnover tax. What is turnover tax? For withholding tax, they can even argue that, okay, withholding tax is actually the tax against future profit because the economy is not documented. But for turnover tax, they can't say that. There's no profit, there's no income. It's a transaction that is happening, and a tax is levied on that. And look, people say that we are not creative. In the field of taxation, we have proven how creative we are. So, turnover tax within the income tax ordinance is a prime example of indirect tax within the ambit of the direct tax, which make things more complicated. Anyway, now let's move forward, and thank you all for your feedback. Next thing that I want you to be aware and pay particular attention is on the taxation law framework. So how does the taxation system, the legal system works in Pakistan? And this is critical from the tax planning perspective that you have a good understanding of this. Either even if you are doing the planning yourself or you are talking with an expert, either way. So the core of the taxation laws are the acts or the ordinances. For example, we have the income tax ordinance or the sales tax act, both in the federal and as well as in the provinces. So these are the core, the foundation stone on which the taxation law is based. Then we have rules which explain the practical implications, the practical application of these legislations, these points, these laws covered within the acts and the ordinance. Then we have annual finance act, be it federal or provincial, which are basically the approved and amended budgets. And they end up revising the acts or the ordinances. But that's not all. We also are aware, especially those who have been dealing with taxation or senior executives whose work involved dealing with taxation experts, that we receive circulars and notifications from the regulators, the tax authorities from time to time, be it FPRS, RB, PRA, KPRA, etc. And last but not the least, the legal decisions by the appellate and judicial forums. So these are the five core components of the taxation laws framework in Pakistan. And these five elements form the fundamentals, these form the framework of the taxation laws in Pakistan. So it is critical that you are aware that how this taxation law framework works in Pakistan. Okay, just some quick overview and quickly giving you a head start in terms of two major pieces of legislation. There are several, we can't possibly cover all, but I have focused on two major to give you a taster. Income tax ordinance was enacted to update the tax laws, Income tax ordinance 2001. This was enacted to update the tax laws with the stated aim of bringing taxation in line with the modern international standards. It was promulgated through an ordinance on 13 September 2001 and was effective from 1st of July 2002. Each year, this ordinance is updated with the amendments resulting from the Annual Finance Act. The Income Tax Ordinance 2001 have 200. It has 241 sections divided in and accompanied by 9 different schedules. Now, before I go further, I have one question. We all know that ordinance are promulgated through a legal vehicle which is temporary in nature. So how come we still have an income tax ordinance 2001 even after a lapse of 20 years? Anyone? Come on, guys. Imran Tariq is saying it keeps on updating. Yes, Imran, it keeps on updating. But the question is this: an act is an act of the legislator, the assemblies, and that's a permanent thing. An ordinance is a stopgap arrangement. When the parliament is not in session, there is an emergency, the president or the head of the state promulgate the ordinance, and it's temporary. Now, income tax ordinance was promulgated, as I've shared with you, on 13 September 2001. And now it's been almost the 20th year now. So why is it still in existence? Shouldn't it be replaced by an act? Anyone? Come on, guys. Tax planning session. This is basic ABC. Hasib Azam Memon. Ordinance passed by President of Pakistan, approved by Parliament, remains permanent. Fantastic, Hasib. Well done. That's exactly the answer I was looking for, Hasib Saab. So, guys, when an ordinance is ratified by the Parliament, then it becomes permanent. That is the answer. So Income Tax Ordinance 2001, although was promulgated as an ordinance, it was later on ratified by the Parliament and hence attained the sanctity equivalent to an act. Next. So we have spoken about income tax. What is sales tax? Sales tax is an indirect tax. It's not levied on income, it's on transactions. It's an ad valorem tax, just like value addition tax. What do we mean by ad valorem? It means in proportion to the value, the estimated value of the goods and services. It is levied on the sales of goods or services and normally imposed on the gross price. What do we mean by normally imposed on gross price? It means the seller's net cost price plus the tax paid, sales tax paid by seller, plus the profit margin. And that happens at every point of incidence of sale. So if I've sold to you, there is a sales tax element. You have sold it further, there is a sales tax element, and it goes and on until the final consumer who is effectively bearing the entire incidence of sales tax. It is a cost and involves an element of double taxation. It's a cost for businesses because they are able to pass it through to the ultimate consumer. Now, I want you to remember that indirect taxes are not very equitable in nature. I mean, if you think about it, in terms of income, somebody who is paying higher is paying a higher slab of income. But in terms of sales tax, when you are buying a glass of water or a bottle of water or milk, you are paying the same level of sales tax as your driver. Yeah, you can argue that I might be buying a higher brand and he's buying a lower brand, but there is no prohibition. He can also buy that higher brand, but still end up paying the same level of tax. And that's not very equitable. And it goes against the fundamental principle of using taxation as a policy tool and taxation planning, helping the economy to gain growth and to ensure segmentation of wealth across the various segments of society in an equitable manner. Now, my question is, if there are these drawbacks of indirect taxes, why in Pakistan we have such a huge focus on indirect taxation? Whether you agree with the argument or not, are you aware of the justification that is provided by certain segments as well as the regulators? And let me just add that the last question was also correctly answered by Mr. Muhammad Ali. I just didn't see the answer at that time. Okay, Sufyan is saying no one agreed to pay direct taxes. Sufyan, no one agrees to pay any taxes in the world. Taxes has to have to be paid. I know where you are coming from, but you need to polish the answer a bit. You are on the right track. Think about it. Uh, Subhan Siddiqui Saab is saying tax theft. Okay. Hasib Saab is saying because of lack of people wanting to direct taxes. Muhammad Ali is saying low filer. Ali, filer is anyone filing a return. They don't even have to pay taxes. You know, about we all have roughly 2.95 million filers. You can say about 3 million filers, and a big proportion, according to some estimate, as much as 30% plus are nil return filers. So not necessarily. Imran Tariq is saying it's easy to collect. We impose on each individual. Imran, well, in terms of fees, we have the instrument of withholding, so we can also do that, don't you think? What else? Sidra Haq is saying because people tend to uh, if tax evasion. Okay, so if people tend to tax evasion, Sidra, then they also want tend to tax evasion in sales tax. Actually, let me have a quick discussion with you. Let me unmute you, Sidra. Mm, Can you just make sure that you have unmuted yourself? Okay, I've unmuted you. Now you are self-muted,
Yes,
Sidra.
now
You
we
need
have.
to.
Yes,
Assalamu
thank you
alaikum.
so much. Walaikum assalam. How are you?
I'm
Thank
doing
you
well,
very much.
thank you.
I think as people tend to more tax evasion and it depends on more of the spending. So indirect taxes is basically because the ones who spend more or buy more things are giving the tax on there and then basis. So I think it's a kind of way of collecting the tax there and then. So it's a mechanism where the spending depends on the more of the taxes. So the ones who spend more give more tax.
Uh, just one question, Sidra. Are you aware of the fact that there have been major frauds within the sales tax arena too, where people have been collecting these taxes from the consumer and not paying to the
Yes,
treasury? So
yes,
don't
that is
you
true.
think
That
that
is.
so don't you think that effectively negates this whole argument?
It does, but the main purpose behind these taxes by the government is this.
Fair enough. Thank you for your input. Okay, next we have Kanza saying, can you repeat your questions? Sure, Kanza. I've asked that I've actually shared the many issues and drawbacks with indirect taxation, which are inherent, such as not being just, equitable, etc. And I've asked that if there are so many issues with indirect taxation, then why in Pakistan we have such a big focus on these? And I've given a disclaimer whether you agree with it or not. Are you aware of the argument given by the taxation authorities and regulators for that? Wasim Ilyas is saying unregistered economy. Okay, that's one of the arguments. Sidra is saying tax base of direct taxes, and Hasib Saab is saying because of the complexity of tax laws, people show lack of interest in paying taxes. Okay, but the question was, what is the argument given by authorities? They largely say that unfortunately in Pakistan, the economy is not documented and people are more prone to tax evasion. Hence, we resort to indirect taxation as a major component of the taxation. So, some of you were right. Congratulations to them. For the others, thank you for contributing. Now we all know why this is happening. Let's continue. Bodies in terms of taxation. While I was answering a question by Hasib, I think this was already referred to. So I'll just quickly give you an overview. We have federal and provincial taxes. What used to happen before was that sales tax used to also be administered, collected by FBR, Federal Board of Revenue. However, post 18th Amendment in 2010, sales tax on provinces became a provincial subject, and firstly, Sindh Revenue Board was established, followed by Punjab Revenue Authority, and then KP Revenue Authority, and then we have the Balochistan's tax body as well. And in this very similar order, we had the tax legislations coming out as well. So we have a long history of taxes in Pakistan, but that's not much relevant to today's session. What is relevant is now sales tax on services are administered by the provincial authorities. FBR only administered the sales tax on services for the Islamabad capital territory. Other than that, FBR administers sales tax for goods and the provincial authorities administers sales tax on services. The income tax, however, it is administered by FBR, so are the federal excise duty and customs by the Customs Wing of FBR. Which brings us to an overview of the Sales Tax Act 1990. Just a quick overview. Sales Tax Act was basically enacted on 1st of November 1990 to replace the old Sales Tax Act of 1951. The current Sales Tax Act 1990 has 75 distinct sections, and it is also accompanied by 9 schedules. These 9 schedules outline the exemptions, the rebates, the tax laws, the tax rates, etc., and form an integral part of the tax laws outlined within these 75 sections. Now, some fundamental concept which will form the very essence and base of the tax planning. So please pay attention here. We have already discussed about indirect and direct taxes, income tax versus sales tax. Withholding tax, as the name suggests, are the taxes that are withheld at source. So when you are making a payment, you are withholding the tax. My question to you is, are these withholding taxes on income tax or sales tax? Are you aware? Do we have withholding taxes on income tax or sales tax? Okay, 30-second again. And then I have a fantastic poll question for you guys. Okay, Kanza said income tax, Imran said both, Subhan said both, Umar, Waqas, Hamid both, Khalid Jumra both, Khalid Jumra income tax, Sidra both, Wasim Ilyas both, Sufyan income tax mostly, sales tax on purchase from unregistered, Ibrahim both, Kanza also on indirect taxes. Well, congratulations to those who said both. Yes, it's mostly in income tax, but it's also in sales tax. In sales tax, it's largely on unregistered, but not limited to them in different areas depending on products and services. You even withhold from 1/5 to the entire amount of sales tax as well. So the correct answer was both. Well done. Okay, guys. Now let's continue. It's good that we have the concept of withholding. The concept is that you are withholding the tax at the time of payment and paying it to the government treasury. So you are acting as a tax collection agent for absolutely free. How's that? And then we say our tax authorities are not creative. Look what they devised. Okay, that was on a lighter note. You should also be aware of income tax return that's normally filed once a year. I'm sure you'll be aware of it. If you are not, we have a recorded session on income tax return filing, and we'll be having a new one soon too as part of the CPD programs. Do watch out. Net income, I'm sure we are all aware of the concept. It's what is left after taking out all the relevant allowable expenses, be it from the gross profit level or the other administrative selling expenses, etc. Income tax return is filed annually as opposed to the sales tax return. Uh, there is a statutory given format for the income tax return to report state of affairs and performance during the period, and that format basically encompasses the concepts and the pattern of the income statement and balance sheet. So far, so good. You should also be aware who need to file the income tax return. And the best way to go around that is actually to talk about who don't need to file it. So the persons exempt from filing income tax returns, and this is a direct section copied from the income tax ordinance, are a widow, an orphan below the age of 25 years, a disabled person, or in case of ownership of immovable property, a non-resident person, they don't need to file income tax return. So everybody else needs to. But let us be more sympathetic and clear this confusion for once and all. Section 114 actually outlines to clear any confusion that is left in terms of who need to file the income tax return. So first of all, every company. Secondly, every person other than company whose taxable income for the year exceeds the maximum amount that is below taxable limit, which is not chargeable to tax under this ordinance for the year. Then any non-profit organization, NPO, as defined in clause 36 of section 2 of the income tax ordinance, any welfare institution approved under clause 58 of part 1 of the second schedule of income tax ordinance, any person not covered by clause A, AB, AC, or AD who has been charged to tax in respect of any of the two preceding tax years and claims a loss carried forward under this ordinance for a tax year, or owns of immovable property with a land area of 500 square yards or more, or own any flats located in areas falling within the municipal limits existing immediately before commencement of local government laws in provinces or areas in cantonment or ICT, or owns immovable property with a land or area of 500 square yards or more located in a rating area, or owns a flat having covered area of 200,000 square feet or more located in a rating area, or if nothing, and if you don't fall in any of these things, but you own a motor vehicle having engine capacity of 1000 cc or above, or if you have for whatever reason obtained a national tax number. And this is very important because many people say, oh, we are not earning, so we don't have to file a tax return. If you have a NTN, you need to file a tax return, even if it's a nil return. Or if you are the holder of a commercial or industrial connection of electricity where annual bill exceeds 10,000 rupees, 5,000 rupees now. 500,000, sorry, not 5,000, or a resident person who is registered with any chamber of commerce, industry, trade, business association, market committee, professional body. Every resident person being an individual is required to file foreign income and asset statement under section 116A, and every individual whose income under the head income from business exceeds 300,000 but does not exceed 400,000 in a tax year is also required to furnish return of income for the tax year. Whew. So now you know, आपकी मैं जिंदगी आसान कर देता हूँ. Let me make your life easier. It's as simple as this, that if you are earning above taxable limit, or have any property, or have a bank account, or you have a national tax number, or you have a vehicle, or you are in any position where you have some assets set aside, or you are earning income that is above taxable limit, you need to file a tax return. Full stop. Take that from me and your life will be easier. That brings us to the concept of filer and non-filer. I think that's pretty straightforward. In fact, why don't I ask one of you to explain the concept of filer? Anyone? Any volunteers? Come on, guys, it's not so horrible. You'd probably need to speak for a minute or two. I've been doing that for better part of an hour and close to hour and a half. At least some of you would be aware of the concept of filer. Okay, Ibrahim Tariq has volunteered. Ibrahim, please unmute yourself. I'm gonna unmute you from my explain it to everyone. We also have Muhammad Ijazul Haq raising the hand. So let me just first give a chance to Ijaz and then I'll come to you, Ibrahim. Ijaz sab, you need to unmute yourself. You are self-muted. Ji, assalamu alaikum. Can you hear us? Ijaz sab, I can hear some background noise, but probably you are busy. वालेकुम अस्सलाम, वेलकम। जी इजाज साहब, आप हमें बताइए क्या होता है फाइलर?
Actually, when you annually tax and after that you submit that all the details, whatever you paid on the website, basically submit your document, all the proof that whatever you have submitted. So that is basically uh, acknowledging that you have paid your whatever the taxes you owe
Okay,
in that. So
thank you for your input, Ijaz. Really appreciate it. Ibrahim's mic is not working, but yourself and just briefly tell us what do you think about filer if you have anything to add on to Ijaz. And Ijaz sab, you can now lower your hand. Ji Sufyan, are you there? You are self-muted and need to unmute yourself.
Assalamualaikum, sir.
Wa alaikum assalam, Sufyan bhai. How are you? Good
I'm
to
fine,
have you
sir.
here.
Thank you. सर फाइलर वो शख्स या कंपनी है जो टाइम के ऊपर अपनी रिटर्न फाइल कर रहा है या अगर लेट फाइल किया तो वो एटीएल से चार्ज जमा करवा रहा है तो वो फाइलर हो जाएगा।
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Sufyan.
Thank you.
So the concept basically has been correctly grasped, but I'll talk about it in more technical term. Ibrahim said his mic is not working, and sorry for the inconvenience. Not at all, Ibrahim. Thank you for giving your contribution in the chat box. So what exactly is filer? Like Sufyan and he was saying, it's someone who has filed his tax return. But the legal definition is someone who is actually on the active taxpayer list is a filer. So someone who has filed a tax return, can they not be on the active taxpayer list? Yes, if they filed after the due date and did not pay the ATL surcharge. So what you now need to do is actually file your tax return on time, or if you are late, then pay an additional charge, depending on whether you are individual AOP or company, and that ranges from just 1,000 for individual to 10K for the company. ATL, however, normally runs 1 year in the past. What do I mean by that? So after 30th June, we'll be filing the tax returns for tax year 2021. But the ATL will be running on the basis of the tax returns filed for tax year 2020. ATL is released on 1st of March of every year and continues till 28th of February of the next year. So it practically runs almost a year in the past, that when we'll be filing for tax year 2021, if somebody wants to be on ATL, they also need to file the tax return for 2020 if they did not file that. Before there used to be a term non-filer for anyone who was not a filer, and it has now been changed to not on ATL. An active taxpayer list is simply the list instituted by Federal Board of Revenue under Section 181, and such list includes Azad Jammu and Kashmir Central Board of Revenue and Gilgit-Baltistan Council Board of Revenue too. Benefits for filers, we are already aware that there are no tax deduction on certain transactions like cash withdrawal from banks, and lower tax rate, almost 100% lower on certain transactions like profit on debt, advance income tax on property transaction, CGT, dividends, and then the withholding taxes become adjustable. And last but not the least, peace of mind. We don't have time for practical demonstration, but I'm sure you'll be aware of that. We'll just quickly move on to another interesting section which deals with appeal. But before that, I had a very interesting question from one of the participants asking to differentiate between the normal tax regime and the fixed tax or final tax regime. So what happens is that under the normal tax regime, you basically follow the concepts of income tax return that you have studied. You take your turnover, you take out the expenses, and what is left is your net income, and tax is charged on that. Any tax that you have paid before in terms of withholding or had been deducted is adjusted, and if there's any additional liability, you pay that. If you have overpaid, then the government is supposed to issue you a refund, which has improved of late, although has been horrible before that. However, in a final tax regime, what happens is that the tax that you have paid, a withholding tax, and normally that's focused in the past on the importer or exporter, that is supposed to be the full and final discharge of liability. It does not matter what kind of expenses you incur, whether you incur a loss, you don't have to pay anything else and you don't get anything back. I hope that answers the question. Now let's continue with section 127 of the Income Tax Ordinance 2001. It basically deals with filing of the appeal to Commissioner Appeals. It outlays very specific areas and orders under which an appeal can be filed to the Commissioner Appeal. So these are sections under 121, the assessments under 122, 143, 144, 170, 182, or 161 or 172 or section 221. If you have an order under any of these, you can file an appeal to Commissioner Appeal within the prescribed time period and in the prescribed format and with the prescribed fee. And what is the time limit? That is within 30 days after you receive the order. There are exception to time bar if you can satisfy the Commissioner Appeal that the delay in filing appeal was for sufficient cause, they can allow your appeal. The good thing is that now the appeal filing process with the Commissioner Appeal has largely been automated, and this is done online, um, removing many impediments that were involved in the manual process. However, there are still some snacks that need to be filtered out. So the requirements for filing the appeal with the Commissioner Appeal are that it should be in the prescribed form, verified in the prescribed manner, state the grounds on which you are making the appeal, and accompanied by the prescribed fee and filed within the prescribed time period. If not, then give the justification why they were not filed within the prescribed time period. Section 128 deals with the procedure in filing the appeal, and 129 deals with the decision in appeal. For you to be efficient in tax planning, I suggest at least go through these sections. If you don't want to, a recording of these sections is available on my YouTube channel. Just listen to that, but it's important that you do. Income tax rules 2002 have the prescribed forms for filing these appeals, and you should go through that. But it's not just the Commissioner Appeal. In addition to Commissioner Appeal, after that, you can file an appeal to the tribunal level as well. You have 60 days after the decision of the Commissioner Appeal to file the appeal to the appellate tribunal level, and that's where your area would end. And if the decision is still adversarial, you would need a legal attorney to go any further and file it in the High Court of Justice. Okay, so far so good. That brings us to the end of the core coverage of the area. Here are my contact details. If you have any question about today's session, even after the session, please feel free to get in touch. The best way to contact me is either on WhatsApp or LinkedIn. If you do that, please share your intro, your name, and that you attended this session. I make every effort to get back to everyone. However, during Ramzan, I've tried to focus more on the spiritual side. So it might take a bit of time, but I make it a point to respond to everyone. So now that we are towards the end of the session, please feel free to ask any and all questions that you may have. We still have a good 5 minutes, and if needed, we can go on top for another 10 or 15. So any questions, guys? Now is your time. Please go ahead. Come on, free of cost में आपको मुफ्त की टैक्स प्लानिंग और एडवाइजरी सर्विस मिल रही है. Go ahead, guys. अच्छा, अगर आपका कोई सवाल नहीं हुआ ना तो इसका मतलब होगा इतना अच्छा पढ़ा है, कोई सवाल नहीं, फिर तो जस्टिफाइड होगा कि फिर मैं सवाल पूछूंगा और उस सवाल के जवाब पे हारून साहब सर्टिफिकेट देंगे कि अटेंटिवली अटेंड भी हो रहा था सेशन के नहीं.
Sure, sure, why not?
So let's just give a minute ताकि अगर कोई टाइप कर रहे हैं they can just type. After that it's my turn. And we have the questions. So Ibrahim Tariq Saab is asking how to record IT services exported in PRA sales tax return. Okay, Ibrahim, this is a tax planning session. But chale, I'll answer you. पहली चीज ये है, Ibrahim, you need to focus on the purview of PRA. Punjab Revenue Authority is focused on the services that originate from Punjab. So if you are exporting the IT services, although they are exempt from income tax, PRA has a lower rate on IT services. And within the tax return, you have a particular segment where you report your services that you have rendered, and it will be reported there. But the good thing for you is we do have a session on filing of PRA sales tax return, and it is available on YouTube. It is a bit old, I think about 2 or 3 years old, but if I remember correctly, in that session, the column was there and it's still the same. So go through that session and your query will be addressed. And you are welcome. Next one is by Abdul Qadir Lakhani Sahab. He's saying, why are salaried individuals taxed so much, yet businessmen earn more, yet pay relatively less? Evident from them buying property every year, yet salaried employees needs loan, etc. to buy property. How can a salaried employee plan tax? Okay, Abdul Qadir Bhai, I'm sorry to bust the myth and be the devil's advocate, but this is one of the most widely spread wrong perceptions. Within the taxation revenue that is collected, the share of the salary segment is not more than 20 or 25% in any tax year. How's that for a shocker? Now, what happens is two things. Every salaried individual working in the public sector or multinationals or good businesses do have their taxes deducted. So there's this impression. Not every businessman is paying taxes. So that is that. However, the businesses, in terms of contribution, are contributing more, much, much more to the taxation revenue collected compared to all the salaried class in Pakistan. The second part of your question, that businessmen can buy properties and salaried individuals need loan, why is that? Well, it's the fundamental principle: higher the risk, higher the return. Your boss is taking a lot of risk, investing a lot of effort, and going through that, and in turn is, when successful, getting a lot of reward. You have opted, or any salaried individual has opted, depending on circumstances, and there's nothing wrong with that, for a safety net where they are assured a particular sum every month. But against that assurance, they have accepted a lower reward than they might otherwise be able to get. Having said that, still many salaried individuals, especially those at senior position, do not need loans. I am aware of many such individuals, and using their savings and financial planning, they are able to accumulate and buy financial assets over time. How can they plan tax? Actually, the planning for salaried individuals in terms of salary tax is pretty straightforward. It's more about their overall taxation planning. So, for example, a salaried individual might have some rental income. They might have some invested in the savings certificate. So you'll have to take the entire picture Just like I gave the example of the corporate side, there were many different segments, the timing, the income stream, the overall levels. Same principles would need to be applied, however, using the applicable laws for the salaried class. I hope that answers the question, Abdul. Just type in the chat box for me to know. Wakas is saying, do we have to pay turnover tax even if we have net loss? If yes, how can we avoid turnover tax? Wakas, unfortunately, yes. How can you avoid that? By shifting to a country outside Pakistan, which doesn't have this. Okay. Uh, I have this discussion with many different scholars that we can argue a lot that a law is not justified, it's even illogical or whatever. But as long as it's law of the land, being law-abiding citizen, you have to oblige, you have to comply with that. Ibrahim is saying, thank you. You are welcome,
Sorry,
Ibrahim.
Umar Saab, I may wanted to make a comment here, and I
Yep,
wanted to bring in our proposal for budget that we submit every year. The other
yep.
possibility of avoiding this tax is avoiding, not evading. Avoiding this tax is lobbying, and you can do that through ACCA because ACCA makes a budget proposal, sends it to the government, and therefore you can make a pitch that this turnover tax could be replaced by another more efficient tax. Umar
Well
Saab, you
said.
can shed some light as well.
Yeah, definitely. But Harun Sab, now you have to be very careful because if the proposal is not immediately acted upon by government, Wakas is gonna come after you. You said to me that I'll be able to avoid it. That's on a lighter note. On a serious note,
Yeah, lobbying.
that's a very timely intervention. Thank you. ACCA has circulated an email for budget proposals, feedback from the members, which you would also have received. Even right now, we are in that process. So if you have any proposal, please share that. There is a particular format where you mention the section. Like for this turnover tax, you'll mention the section of the income tax ordinance, then you'll give your proposal, what you think should be done instead of this, and then you have to justify that what you are proposing, how that would be beneficial in terms of taxation revenue, in terms of impact on the business ecosystem, in terms of impact on the economy. And then, as Harun has shared with you, and rightly so, we will send these proposals to the government, to FBR, and lobby with them. And let me share with you that Harun Bhai is also a testament, uh, can give testimony to the fact that many of ACCS proposals over the year have been accepted too. One prime example is Section 111. So over the year, there had been a debate that whether Section 111 should be there or not. The proponents used to say that foreign remittance is critical for Pakistan. If we don't give the tax exemption to them, then we might end up losing on this important segment. We might see a drop in the remittance. The naysayer used to point out that okay, but the problem is this opens a big lacuna where people can send the money abroad and bring them back through hawala and hundi and then avoid all the taxes, and that put the legitimate businessman and individual at a disadvantage where they are paying 20, 30, even 40%, adding different taxes as compared to these people paying just 2% for this entire transaction. So ACCA, and I'm honored to have chaired that proposal, uh, gave an out-of-box solution. We said, okay, let's come in between, don't withdraw the tax exemption, but start asking them the source of the revenue. So the use as a loophole for actually whitening the black money can be stopped. And after some discourse, the government agreed to bring this in segments. So initially there was a limit of 5 million, then the limit has been increased to 10 million, and now we expect it will be further increased. And that is a prime example how we positively contributed by outlining to the government how this proposal will give benefit, how this proposal will end up resolving an issue and contributing to the economy and the revenue. So by all means, in fact, we will encourage you to contribute. And Wakas, now I will look forward to receiving your proposal. अगर आपने ना भेजा ना, तो अब आपका मैंने नंबर लेना है हारून साहब से और आपको फिर कॉल पे मैंने आपसे पूछना है. सो आप तैयारी शुरू कर दें, ईद तक प्रपोजल भेज दें हमें. Abdul Qadir Lakhani Saab is saying thanks a lot, and Wakas has enjoyed our discussion, and he is saying thank you, Harun Saab. Sufyan is saying there are a few companies, institutions listed in ordinance exempt from turnover tax. Yes, they are mostly NPOs, NGOs, or government entities, but generally for us, mortal businessmen or professionals, we have to live with it. Unless we go through the route that Harun Bhai has rightly proposed and continuously lobby for a change. Kanza is asking how salaried individual can plan tax, or which income or investment can we add in our portfolio to plan tax saving. Kanza, I've already answered this question, but just to give you a hint, so for example, we have national saving schemes. When you invest in that, the tax incidence is low. You can add that. Then you can actually form different structures. So, for example, if you have rental income and you just add that in your income tax return, you'll be paying a higher rate. If, however, you form a company and you transfer the rental property in that company, you'll still be owning the company, and then the company will have a lower incidence of tax on that rental income. Until you receive that through dividend, you will be actually accruing a lower incidence of taxes. So it's a bit slightly complicated. It's not like one size fit all that I can give you a standard answer. It would depend on the individual circumstances, the income, and the conditionalities and targets of any individual, and depending on that we can accordingly plan for tax savings. Wakas is saying great achievement. Thank you, Wakas. Kanza is saying which businesses are exempt from paying taxes for tax planning purposes, and can paying donations save businesses from taxes? Yes, paying donations to approved charities can result in tax credit, and that can be used to lower your tax incidence and liabilities. Which businesses are exempt from paying taxes? At the moment, the major exemption is in terms of income tax for IT export. The export oriented segments have seen a large change over the year, and it's not what it used to. I hope uh, I've answered all the question. If you have any other question, please feel free to ask. Um, you know, such sessions are so informative that you always feel that if there was more time. However, we know now this is Asr time and very close to iftar time. I'm thankful to you all for sparing time on a Ramzan afternoon. I'm thankful to ACCA for providing us this opportunity to contribute and give back, which is very close to my heart. To Harun Bhai, who made all the arrangements, and thank you for all your feedback. But before you go, there's a poll, and I'm going to put that poll on your screen. And that's a very simple poll. And don't be scared, it's not a technical poll. It asks, how would you rate yourself on ACCA's competency taxation on a scale of 1 to 5, 5 being the highest? And please let us know that. In addition to that, also let us know how was this session. Did you like it? Should more such session be planned? And should we have more sessions in on taxation in our CPD program too? Please let us know that. So we are getting some compliments and appreciation from Kanza. 2 hours well spent. Thank you so much from Imran Tariq. Great session. Thank you a lot, Umar Saab. Thank you, guys. Thank you, everyone, for your contribution. I'll just wait for the poll to conclude, and then we'll end this session and say goodbye to everyone. So it's been 43 seconds, 45 seconds now, 15 seconds more. Okay, guys. And Sufyan is also saying, thank you, sir, for the session. You are most welcome, Sufyan. Thank you for your active contribution and sparing the time. And let's close the poll. Harun Sab, would you do the honors of the result of the poll?
Yes, the results on your screen. 80% have ranked themselves right in the middle with the perfect curve. 10% indicating their competency level at 2 and 10% at 4. So perfect curve. I think still having some margin for further improvement, I think.
So I think the conclusion is that the majority of our 7 digit participants believe they are right in the middle at the average when we want them to be above average. So watch out for the CPD program that ACCA is launching. Post Eid, inshallah, there would be a lot of session on taxation. Make sure to attend these. Let me tell you, all these sessions are very valuable. When we conduct these sessions for the corporate segments, the registration fees are anywhere from 20 to 50,000 per participant, and ACCA brings them to you free of cost. Now it's up to you to take benefit of that. No matter what kind of tool is provided at your disposal, if you are not going to make use of that, it would be useless. I think it's a big contribution from ACCA, and we should all make maximum use of that. With that, let us bring this session to a close today. I hope you enjoyed the session and it was valuable for you. I really enjoyed interacting with you. I wish we'll have more time and session in the future. Till then, take care. Over to you, Harun bhai.
Thank you very much, Umar. Thank you all the participants. I think all said and done. Good session, informative. Your next unmoderated session now is going to be on Saturday. Remember, we do not do sessions on Thursdays now till the end of Ramadan. After Ramadan, when we convene, we will revert back to our alternate day model, which is Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. But for Ramadan, spend more time, like Umar said, in your spiritual, objectives. Spend more time there, and inshallah after Ramadan we will continue our alternate day sessions. Thank you so very much. For Saturday, my advice is going to be pay attention to the two case studies that I've shared, and do attend the session on Saturday as well. These are important unmoderated sessions, and do participate in the conversations there. Take good care of yourselves. Thank you so very much. Allah Hafiz.